Okay, let's talk about key person insurance. A lot of business owners are unaware that they can actually insure one of their biggest assets, which is their employees. So let's jump on the whiteboard and walk through exactly how this process works and how you might be able to take advantage of it in your business. So, as we talked about, most of the time, if we have a key employee, such as an operations manager, a key sales hire, maybe someone that is in a particular professional environment, they have certain license or expertise, they have unique value to the company. So whether they are revenue producing or they have a specific know-how or license, or they just hold general responsibility inside the company, they have inherent value, which means that employee is actually an asset to the company. And anytime you have an asset, you can insure it. It means you can take an insurance policy out on that asset, just like you might on a piece of equipment or a business, a piece of real estate, or any other element inside your business. So the way that these policies work is you can actually carve out a policy ensuring this individual their life and contribution to your policy, to your business. And so what happens is the business is over here, and the business gets to come in and say, look, we're going to own this policy. So they own it, meaning that they're going to be the ones doing the funding, spending the money to fund the coverage. And all it's going to be is, at its simplest form, life insurance, meaning that it's going to be a hedge against that employee dying or not being there anymore. So the business owner can take a policy out and insure that person's value. So if that employee were to die and not be in the picture any longer, you as the business would incur a significant amount of losses, both financially, emotionally. There would be missed revenue. There would be know-how that was gone from the business, and there would be a responsibility that was gone as well. And therefore, you can insure that value because you'd have to find a new employee. You would have to do onboarding and training. It might take you 6 months to try to get a replacement. And so that is something that you can insure. So the business owner selects a value and they insure this person's livelihood. And let's just say, for argument's purposes, it's assessed at a $1 million policy. And what that would mean is you would get a $1 million death benefit. And all a death benefit is, and you can look at our other videos to get clarity on that, it's simply a one-time tax-free lump sum payment that's going to be made to the policy owner or the beneficiary when the insured dies. So the employee is the insured, and when they pass away, this $1 million death benefit 100% will go back to what's called the beneficiary. And that beneficiary can be a number of different people. In a key person insurance, it's actually going to be the business owner. They're going to be the same person because they're the ones that would incur loss if that insured were to die. So the way that this works is the business funds money every single month or every single year into a policy to get, at a minimum, coverage in case that employee passes away. The nice part about this for the business owner is you get several components. First, you get coverage, hedge against that employee dying. You also get a tax-free, a liquid place to store money. So we talked about before in previous videos how you can fund in cash into a life insurance policy. So if we were to put in, let's say, $1,000 a month, we can have, let's say, $100 going to the premium or the cost of buying this death benefit. And we can have $900 going to that cash value, which we've talked about before. This is sort of the equity in the policy. And we can pay that in so that this policy can get all those benefits that happen inside of a whole life insurance. First, you get that guaranteed growth of a minimum of 4%. You have it liquid so you can take it out and use it whenever you want. It's tax-free in terms of you making contributions with after-tax dollars, so you can then leverage those dollars and be able to take a loan out without having to pay any taxes on it. So lots of benefits to funding that policy, right? So we get the immediate coverage in case that employee leaves. We get the cash value, or basically an extra storage account or a savings account that we can leverage whenever we want right? So even if that employee stays with us for a long period of time, we might not be worried about the death benefit because they're still living, they're still doing well, but we can use that cash at any moment, right? So if we're putting in, and let's say we've got $100,000 in here as a little savings account, the business owner is the one that owns that cash value. So they get to use that cash however they want, whenever they want. They can leverage it, and it's always growing at that 4 to 6%. So from a business owner's perspective, you get a ton of value, protection, and a great storage mechanism for that employee. So the question becomes then, what is in it for the employee? Why would the employee agree to this? Well, for a couple of reasons. Oftentimes, what would happen, because this employee is the insured, they would have to go through medical underwriting. They would have to be the ones who the value of the insurance is going against their life. So besides the business who's going to get all the benefits, what a lot of employers will do is they'll go, listen, we're going to use this as a retention strategy. So we're going to say, okay, Mr. Employee, let's say we're funding money into this policy and we're going to do so for 10 years. And let's say we have $500,000 in there. So the business funded this policy. Let's say they put money in for a 10-year period. For 10 years. So now the business got to use that money throughout the entire time. They own that cash value. And so what they'll often do is say, listen, what we're going to do for you is if you stay with us for a set amount of time, or you basically get to pick the terms as the business. It could be performance-based. It could be after 5 years, 10 years, could be at age 65. You get to set the terms with your employee as to when and how you want to be able to help them out. And what you're going to say is, look, here's a large lump sum I have in here. If you stay with us, let's say until age 65 in this example, the business will almost set up like a pension plan for that employee. They'll go, listen, we funded money into this policy. It gave us a safety net in case anything happened to you. But if you stick with us until age 65, we're going to give you payments made to you like in a pension. And maybe those are, $25,000 a year. Or maybe they've put enough money in there that it can match their existing salary and you're going to pay them for 10 years. Or from age 65 until death, you're going to pay them basically get an extra retirement benefit on top because you've been accruing this value in this account. And most of the time that value gets significant so that they're comfortable as a business funding out a small amount to give the employee for helping them out and treating them well, but most importantly for sticking with them, right? It's so difficult right now to be able to narrow down and hold employees at companies. People leave an average of 1.5 to 3 years is the length of time most people stay at companies. This is a great retention strategy where you could say, listen, we're going to give you this giant pension, whatever size that might be, when you retire, if you stick with us, because we're going to use this thing as protection against your death. We're going to use it as a cash safety savings account for us. And if you make it and stick with us, this is a great way that we're going to be able to take care of you for taking care of us. So that is the main point of all this is you get a ton of value from a business owner's perspective. Now, one question you might be having is, well, what happens if this employee leaves? What if they just exit and they don't want to work for us anymore? The beauty of this is the business owns all the rights to this policy. They own that cash value. They own that death benefit. And they can actually change the ownership of who is insured as well. So if that person leaves and they decide they don't care about that pension plan, they don't care about that incentive you're going to give them, and you hire somebody else to replace them, you can transfer ownership onto that new employee and start that process all over again. And the nice part about that is if you started that policy, say 5 years ago on the other employee, you can, when you bring on the new employee, it'll actually reset to when you originally sent the policy up, which makes the insurance cheaper. So you don't have to kind of restart a lot of those costs. So not to get super in the weeds, but the idea is the beauty of these policies is you get complete protection in case a key employee were to pass away. You get a savings vehicle that you can store cash in and use whenever you want. And you can use it as a retention strategy if you want to. You don't have to do that. You don't have to cut your employee in at all. You get to set complete control over the terms.